Good evening and welcome to Newswatch. It is the 11th of October 2021. Happy Utamaduni Day. Thank you for joining us on Newswatch as we look at stories making headlines across the country and, of course, have a discussion on the ongoing political happenings in the country. We have our special guest ready for you who's joined us virtually to have this discussion tonight. I'm Tony Omondi and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Muridhi. Let's begin. Now, as enhanced continuous voter registration enters the second week, low turnout has continued to be experienced in many registration centers across the country. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, had targeted to register 1.5 million voters by the end of week one, but according to the latest IEBC report, only 202,518 have been registered. As Kennedy Kimani now reports, a total of 5,206 requests for voter transfer were, however, serviced on the first week.
According to the recent IBC status update on voter registration, the Electoral Commission target for week 1 was under par, as only 13.5% of the total 1.5 million target was achieved. Samburu County recorded the highest percentage of target achieved in week 1, with 8% of 27,059 realized, while Kiambu County managed to attain only 1% of 385,367, making it the county with the lowest percentage of targets achieved. IBC mainly attributes the low turnout to general voter apathy, insecurities in parts of Lamu, Baringo, Laikipia, as well as along the Kenya-Somalia borders, lack of national identity cards, and the culture of last-minute rush. Machakos County IBC coordinator Joyce Wamalwa has expressed disappointment over poor turnout of those coming to register as voters, saying that the latest development of the exercise since it kicked off on the 4th of October indicated that the project figure of 5,000 people per day was nowhere to be reached.
Up to now, we have only 25 days to go. We don't have time. And according to the numbers that we are recording per day, we are still doing far below bar.
Politicians have furthermore continued to call upon their supporters to register as voters, saying that it is through the process that they can actively participate in their country's decision making.
Mimi nataka niwaambie vijana wa Nyahururu na Laikipia, serikali ya mwaka ujao, nyinyi ndio mtaunda hiyo serikali kwa kura zenu. Kuna zaidi ya vijana milioni 6 hawajajisajili na hawana kura. Mimi nataka niwaambie vijana wa Kenya kutoka hapa Nyahururu, muko na nafasi ya kuunda serikali itakayoweka priority nyinyi kupata kazi, nyinyi kufanya biashara, nyinyi kujiinua. Mupige kura, muchukue kura ili mutengeneze serikali hiyo ya mwaka ujao.
Nataka muwe wanajeshi wa baba. Kama unataka mwanajeshi wa baba, mpaka uwe na kitambulisho na kura. Hii ndio wewe una bunduki na risasi. Ili nikisema forward march, about turn.
The registration comes to an end on the 2nd of November, with the IBC targeting to register 6 million eligible Kenyans on the basis of information from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics 2019 Kenya Population and Housing Census Report. Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, KANU board member Mohamed Samatar has asked the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, to ensure all people living with disabilities who are eligible voters are registered during the ongoing enhanced continuous registration exercise, arguing that it will be unfair to deny them their constitutional right to register as voters. Samatar insisted the government must team up with the Electoral Commission for the success of the exercise. He spoke when he joined the Deaf fraternity for a luncheon to celebrate the victory of Teddy Kefa Wasonga as Mr. Africa Deaf Fashion 2021 winner at the family residence at Tudor Valley Apartments in Vita Constituency, Mombasa County.
Sisi tunaomba serikali kwanza. Serikali na IBC, haswa IBC, wakati hii wa kuandikisha kura haijatengeneza mahali maalum ya walemavu. Na hiyo ni another segregation. Lazima IBC itengeneze mahali maalum ya walemavu wapate nafasi yao ya kuregister, wa feel part of the society to participate kwa kura ambayo inaendelea. Kwa hivyo naomba IBC itengeleze maalum for the disabled, because once you take care of the society together, you don't have segregation. Mungu analeta baraka. Mungu anafanya nini? Mungu analeta nini? Baraka. Kwa hivyo naomba serikali ya pili, naomba serikali pia iongeze vile chairman amesema, iongeze sign languages, more access to sign languages, ndio watu waweze ikuwe rahisi wa participate, kwa sababu tusiwaache nyuma wenzetu. Mungu hajawaacha nyuma. Mungu anatupa sisi mtihani hiyo, anaangalia vile tunayefanya na sisi tunaanguka. Mnaona vizuri sana sisi tunaanguka. Ukiona Ulaya wanachunga sana vitu kama hizo, na Mungu anawabariki. Mungu anawabariki. Kwa hivyo sisi pia tuchunge wenzetu, tuwape nafasi za kazi, tuwape more sign languages, tuwape access ya vitu ambazo ni za kawaida.
Let's now move to Laikipia County, where 3 people were killed and 1 person injured in a daring banditry attack in Dindika village, Ngara division on Sunday. According to a report from the National Police Service, the incident occurred at 4 p.m. on Sunday when 3 suspected bandits staged an attack at the home of Michael Canary and made away with 32 herds of cattle and 2 sheep. Following the attack, the police now say that a multi-agency security team currently in Olmoran division has managed to restore peace within the area and its environs. Grace Ngoi reports.
Residents of Laikipia County continue to witness distress and insecurity a month after the Ministry of Interior launched a multi-agency security operation in the area in efforts to bring calm and restore peace. When exactly did the violence begin? The violence goes back several decades and usually happens during the dry season when herders begin to search for grazing land, doing so illegally by invading people's land. This year, the same problem emerged, starting off as a grazing tussle, but according to Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea, who spoke a few weeks ago, the tussle is no longer about grazing land, but has mutated to inter-community wars and land wars, which according to him are mostly fueled by politics.
Hii maneno ambayo inaendelea Laikipia sio mambo ya pasture ama maji, ni mambo ya shamba. Ni mambo ya shamba. Maana kama ingekuwa ni pasture ama maji, hawa jamaa wangekuwa walirudi kitambo. Maana Laikipia nani Samburu mvua ilinyesha. Kuna pasture as we speak now. Isiolo the same. Na wakati waziri alitoa ile makataa ya siku 7, watu walitoka wote from all those group branches and conservancies. Wote walitoka, wala ambao walibaki baada ya makataa ya siku 7 tukaondoa wakatoka. Ikabaki Laikipia Nature Conservancy. Na hapo ndio jamaa wametoka kule upande wa Baringo, wengine wakatoka Samburu, wengine wakatoka Isiolo. Hizi jamii mbili ambazo zilikuwa zinapigana kitambo wameingia some kind of agreement kwamba wakae pale, hawatoke hapo, hawabanduke hapo, na kama serikali nataka watapigana. So mkiona viongozi kama wengine wanatafuta namna hiyo, kwa sababu tuko na information kwamba the part of this cartel hao ndio wanapanga ili kupanga nyama ile watu wapigane. Kuna wengine ambao pia wataendelea kukamatwa.
For the hundreds of families that have been displaced during this season, it's a dark period of uncertainty and tension. For them is to question the strength of the government in quelling this violence and when they can expect lasting peace. Since the operation began, several incidences of insecurity have occurred, including the brutal murder of a 65-year-old man who was shot in broad daylight while herding his cattle about 2 weeks ago. According to the National Police Service, suspected bandits yet again staged another attack on residents on Sunday when they shot at 4 people, killing 3 and leaving 1 fighting for his life.
Mimi nikuna uchungu sana kwa sababu nimenyang'anywa ile mtoto yangu, ule tunaogeaga tu. Ile kitu tunaogea tunafanya.
Ijue sisi hata sisi ni wa Kenya. Na kama sisi hapana wa Kenya, watuambie pahali tutaenda. Tuondoke upande hii. Matutaputia mashamba ile manaweza kutupatia, tuondoke hii watu tuende pande ingine, kwa maana sisi hakuna na uwezo ingine ile sisi iko nayo.
The suspected Pokot bandits, according to the police, were driving 32 herds of cattle and 2 sheep stolen from the home of Michael Kanano in Dindika village in Ngarua, Laikipia County, when they attacked the 4 fishermen while they were fishing at Mbogoini Dam. In a statement earlier today, the National Police Service has, however, announced that the multi-agency security team currently in Olmaran Division will continue to promote peace within the region and pursue the criminals to flush them out of their hideouts. Their stance is that the attacks are outright acts of criminality and not pastoralist-related conflicts.
Kwa hivyo vile ambavyo tungependa kuuliza serikali hii kama imeshindwa na majukumu yake, kwa sababu jukumu ya serikali yoyote ni kuchunga mali na uhai wa wananchi wake. Kama imeshindwa kufanya hiyo kazi, iwache watu wa Laikipia waweze kujihamu ndio waweze kukabiliana na hawa majangili.
Grace Wangoi for Hope TV Newswatch.
Moving on, Kenya University student leaders have called on the government to enhance funding towards mental health awareness issues to curb the increased cases of suicide and depression among the youth. Speaking at a press briefing in Nairobi, student leaders from 14 private and public universities called on the government to be more deliberate in its approach on mental health issues by treating it as a serious medical concern and not a peripheral issue. This comes as the number of suicide cases among the youth, particularly university students, has been on the rise in recent months, pointing to a worrying trend.
Mental health is a problem that is not affecting just our country, but it has become a global problem. We are here today, not only just as student leaders, but also as ambassadors and champions for mental health.
We are calling on a status review of the progress of the Kenya mental health policy, which covers the period between 2015 and 2030. The policy is a commitment to pursuing policy measures and strategies for achieving optimal health status and capacity of every Kenyan. Further, the government should review the progress of the implementation of the recommendations of the Ministry of Health Mental Health Task Force report of 2020. For instance, the government should consider enhancing the budgetary allocation to the mental health from the current 0.01% of the total health expenditure as reported in the report to a more substantive allocation.
We understand there are lots of challenges with this economy, with unemployment, with the stress that comes with the pandemic. We'd like to encourage the comrades to speak up. There is no shame in suffering. We are here for you. Join us in this campaign, 60 days campaign, online, and also partners, including the government. We'd like to encourage you, or rather to demand that you partner with us. In our institutions, there is a counseling office, I know, that is provided in every parastatal or institutions of learning. Please boost these offices by facilitating them and creating awareness of their availability for our students to be able to go to these offices and be able to speak up.
Let's get to some politics now. Deputy President William Ruto has asked the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining to crush the corruption cartels responsible for the high cost of fuel in the country. He said unscrupulous petrol businessmen were using the ministry to manipulate the prices of the essential commodity to boost their profits, and wondered why the cost of petrol in Kenya is higher than the cost of petrol in Uganda, a landlocked country that relies on Kenya for its petroleum imports. As Dickens Levander reports, the government pledged that Kenyans would see positive fuel prices in the next petrol price review.
Deputy President William Ruto has linked higher fuel prices to cartels in the Ministry of Petroleum. The DP has asked the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining to crush the corruption cartels responsible for the high cost of fuel, noting that unscrupulous petrol businessmen are using the ministry to manipulate the prices of the essential commodity to boost their profits.
Kwa wale wanaohusika na mambo ya mafuta katika wizara ya mambo ya petroli na mafuta, ile cartel ya ufisadi iko pale, ndio inasababisha bei ya mafuta hapa Kenya kuzidi bei ya mafuta Uganda, na hiyo mafuta inapitia Kenya ikienda Uganda. Jameni, unaweza kutueleza vipi ati bei ya mafuta hapa Kenya mahali ni karibu na mahali mafuta inatoka iko bei juu kuliko Uganda, na Uganda inachukua mafuta kutoka hapa kwetu. That is the explanation that Kenyans want to know.
Accompanied by his allies, DP Ruto was speaking at his current residence when he met grassroots leaders from the Kigumo constituency, Murang'a County, and called for the liberalization of the petroleum market to caution Kenyans from the greedy businessmen.
The corruption cartel at the Ministry of Petroleum should explain to Kenyans why dealers have increased their profits from 9 shillings to 12 shillings. Why the ministry is protecting the whole market and operates now like a cartel that is hurting the ordinary people of Kenya, to the extent that fuel products in Kenya are more expensive, that there is no other reason. It is not even about the taxes. It is about the corruption in the Ministry of Petroleum that is aiding a few companies to make super profits while the ordinary citizen in Kenya is suffering high prices.
DP Ruto's sentiments come days after Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i declared that Kenyans will see a positive change in the next petroleum prices review on October 14th, a message that he conveyed when he announced that Kenya Power and Lighting Company was now a special government project following various corruption cases witnessed in the company. This will see an interministerial team set up to audit and oversight urgent reforms in the company.
His Excellency, our President is very concerned about the cost of power. Our bills are too high. We have looked at several aspects. I need to say here, candidly, that we have taken certain tough decisions, especially in relation to the PPAs. For example, effective now, we have suspended any negotiation on any new PPAs. When the next review happens, that as the result of the many actions that have been taken, you will see some reductions in the cost of fuel as we go forward.
How does a listed public company become a state project? If you want a better definition of state capture, that is the first definition of state capture. Before you make KPLC a state project, you must disclose to Kenyans who are the private equity holders, the largest private equity holders in KPLC.
DP Ruto's current meeting on Monday saw nominated Member of Parliament Wilson Sossion in attendance.
Agenda ya bottom-up model katika dunia yote is pro-common man, and is an agenda of equality and prosperity of the common man. Kwa hivyo, Your Excellency, the choice of this agenda, this model, I can count you as one of the few brave African leaders to follow that route. Tuko na wewe 100% kuhakikisha kwamba wewe umechaguliwa kama rais. Na within 100 days, vile Kibaki alifanya, within 100 days, Kibaki alipatia watoto wa Kenya free education, si ndio?
The former NAT Secretary General appears to have shifted focus from the ODM party to backing Ruto's UDA party and the DP's 2022 presidential ambitions.
And United Democratic Alliance, as I finish, I believe it is going to be the most stable political party.
Deacon Sulvanda, Hope TV Newswatch.
The Orange Democratic Party leader Raila Odinga has rubbished claims by the Deputy President William Ruto that he is an outsider in the Mount Kenya region. Odinga, who spoke in Nyahururu, said he climbed the mountain long time ago. Deputy President William Ruto, while speaking in Nyahururu on Saturday, declared himself the Mount Kenya political supremo, announcing he had captured the heart of the region.
Mungeona yule analeta pesa ama mwenye anachukua. Mwenye analeta ama anachukua. Munataka baba. Munataka baba. Hapa Nyahururu ni mwanzo wa kuelekea mlima, sio? Sio. Nimesikia watu wengine jana wanabweka nasema ati Raila mpaka pati kibali kwao ndio aingie mlimani. Nataka kuwafundisha Niwafundishe. Kwanza Jaramogi ndiye aliingia mlimani kwanza, akasema without Kenyatta no freedom Kenya. Mpaka Kenyatta akatolewa kwa jela, akawa rais wa kwanza wa Kenya, sio? Raila alipanda milima kitambo. Kwanza nilisema Kibaki tosha, si mnakumbuka? Nilisema Kibaki tosha. Wakati nilikuwa nasema ni Kibaki tosha, sikujua yeye ni Mkikuyu. Sikujua yeye ni Mkikuyu. Lakini nilijua ya kwamba Wakikuyu ni Wakenya. Kibaki alipopata ajali, mimi ndo nilifanya kampeni. Nilienda Kenya mzima, hata hapa Nyahururu nilikuja. Nikipiga Kibaki debe, sio? Alishinda, tukampeleka Uhuru Park na kwa wheelchair, sio? Baadaye tulipotoka naye hapo, tulimpeleka Othaya. Tulipofika pale Githurai, watu walijaa. Tukafika Thika, watu walijaa. Pikipiki ikavuka mto Chania, tukaingia Kenol, tukaingia Murang'a, tukaingia Sagana, tukaingia Karatina, tukaingia Mkuruweni, tukaingia Othaya. Kila mahali watu wanasema Raila Mtongoria jamba.
And the One Kenya Alliance OKA chiefs have called on Kenyans to register as voters to be able to participate in next year's general election while hoping for a massive win in the election. Speaking in various stopovers in Makueni County while campaigning for Wiper Party candidate Eshio Mwaiwa for the October 4th Ngu Masumba ward by-election, OKA principals Musalia Mudavadi of ANC, Kalonzo Musyoka of the Wiper Party, Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula and UDP's Cyrus Jirongo said the country can only get correct leadership if the public participates in election. At the same time, the principals said they will stick together and ensure one of them becomes the country's chief executive.
Tunasema OKA kwa sababu hii ndio ina wale wanaume wanaelewa Kenya, ambao sio wafisadi, ambao ndio wanaweza kuongoza Kenya vizuri.
Tukue kura kwa wingi. Wingi ya kura ya watu wa Ukambani ndio itakuwa sauti yenu Kenya hii. Kwa hivyo mtuache mtu hata mmoja nyumbani. Mtukue kura, msimame imara. Sisi tunataka kuweka taifa la Kenya pamoja.
Sisi kama OKA fanye kazi na Wakenya wote. Tunataka tuunganishe Wakenya wote na tunataka serikali iaminike. Tunaelewa? Kwa sababu unaweza kuwa na serikali lakini haiaminiki. Sisi tunataka tuwe na serikali na viongozi ambao wataaminika. Na ndio kwa sababu tunasema mchukue kura na mchague viongozi ambao mtaamini.
All right. On that note, we want to get to our interview tonight. Political discussion, just talking about what is happening in the country, the IEBC, and of course, the political formations currently happening in the country. And joining us in the studio tonight is our guest, Abel Oyeyo, who is a political analyst and is joining us virtually. Good evening, Abel, and thank you for joining us on this broadcast.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
Okay. My first question. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has been facing hurdles with just 10 months to the general election. The body has failed to reach its weekly target of 1.5 million new registration or new voter. As we've actually seen a statement from IEBC saying that this week it only managed to do 202,000 new registrations. This, of course, must be a worrying pace to the electoral body. Do you think Kenyans are deliberately refusing to register as voters? And what does this mean to the IEBC?
Well, thank you so much for the question. I think there is the element of before the exercise gets even halfway. So, because we have 30 days to do the exercise,
Okay, I think we're having a bit of a challenge there with our audio with Mr. Abel. I think we'll just have to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with the interview and, of course, more stories making headlines in the country. Do stay with Newswatch. We'll be back shortly.
Our world needs humble, confident, bold, and integrity-infused leaders.
Live online, Thursday through Friday, October 14th and 15th, 2021. Join thousands of curious, growth-minded, change-driven men and women like you for the premier leadership event of 2021, the Global Leadership Summit. Some of the world-class faculty includes Craig Goshel, Senior Pastor of Life Church, Jami Lima, Richard Montanes, who started off as a janitor and rose to be a top executive. Local faculty include Justice Daniel Musinga, who'll talk about the quest for justice, fairness, and equality. Bishop David Oginde, CEO and founder, the Carter Lead Associate. Daniel Kamau, CEO, Fusion Capital. Archbishop Eliud Wabuhala, Chairperson, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Committee. Among other speakers, guest musician will be Florence Morethi. To register, call 722-490325 or visit www.kenyaleadership.org. Everyone wins when a leader gets better.
Welcome back to Newswatch, and we want to go back to our interview there. I'm being told that the audio has been sorted. So our guest tonight is Abel Oyeyo, who is a political analyst joining us virtually. And my first question was about the low voter turnout, and IEBC is complaining about the numbers. So the question is, do you think Kenyans are deliberately refusing to register as voters? And what does this mean to the IEBC? Abel. Okay, I think we'll have to continue with the broadcast. Then once we'll be able to sort that one out, we will continue with the broadcast. Now we want to talk about church leaders. I want to go to Nakuru County. Church leaders and youths in Bahati sub-county. Nakuru County have accused the Nakuru County government of sabotaging the war against illicit brew by issuing licenses to outlets without the involvement of the community. This comes as some of the residents in the area blamed their addiction to illicit brews and on joblessness and idleness. Dolly Murigi reports.
The uptake of illicit brew in Bahati sub-county Nakuru County has continued for some time now. In August this year, 10 people died after consuming illicit liquor. However, police officers in the area launched a crackdown against illicit liquor in Hodi Hodi and JC villages in Bahati where the incident occurred. But this seems not to have solved the problem. Church leaders have accused the county government of sabotaging the war against alcoholism in the area. Led by Reverend Peter Kabiru, the chairman of Save the Young Generation Group, say the governor revoked licenses after Hodi Hodi tragedy, where more than 10 people died after consuming illicit brew in August this year, but the bars are fully operational with licenses today.
Changamoto yetu kubwa ni kwa wizara ama serikali ya county, kwa sababu serikali ya county ya Nakuru inatoa license vibaya sana za pombe na hawaangalii ni nani wamepatia, ni wapi inakuwa. Kwa hivyo ningetaka kuuliza hata Governor Lee Kinyanjui ajue kwamba kazi anayotufanyia hapa si kazi nzuri. Juzi alituahidi wakati wa mazishi ya kwamba hakuna license itapatiwa mpaka kuenda public participation. Hata hizo licenses zimejaa hapa.
Speaking during a sensitization meeting where more than 100 youth from Hodi Hodi met at Maili Sita, Kabiru urged residents to join the government in the war against drug abuse, especially among the youthful population, which if not checked would hamper economic growth of the country.
Ni vizuri kufanya mikutano mingi kuhamasisha vijana wetu ya kwamba mambo ambao wanafanya na unywaji wa pombe ambao wanakunywa hawezi kuwafaidi, tukiwaelimisha jinsi ya kuendelea na maisha mazuri. Pia ni kazi tumeanza sasa ya kuwatafutia wafadhili, ili kama kuna mtu ambaye atawahurumia vijana wetu baada ya kuwauzia pombe, aanze kuwapatia miradi ambayo ingewasaidia ama trainings za kuwasaidia kuendelea na maisha.
Joseph Maigwa, resident of Maili Sita, who is also addicted to illicit brew, blamed his habit on employment. Maigwa said the brew has destroyed the lives of more than 10 people in the neighboring village of Hodi Hodi.
Tungeomba vijana wetu wengi hawiko kazi, especially wakati kama huu ambapo vijana wetu wengi wamepoteza makazi zao kutokana na corona. Wengi wanakaa mahali kama hapa panaitwa Chips Corner. Sasa tungeshukuru sana, tungeomba hiyo serikali kama angeweza tu wasaidie vijana wapate kazi. At least hata hospitali wakose kukula. Kwa sababu sasa hata watu wengi wanakunywa pombe kwa kukua ido.
Pombe tunakunywa juu ya stress, kazi yenye naenda kufanya lazima nikunywe. Sasa tungetaka tu hata kama pombe itaisha tupeo kazi. Na pombe huku ni mingi kabisa, pombe baka ya 50. Unaona kuliko ununue baka mboga, unanunua unga, una pesa ya mboga, nyumba hujaripa, unaona heri ukunywe stress ziishe.
The residents have appealed to the local administration to ban the brew lest they lose their lives. Dolly Mirigi, Hope TV, Newswatch.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is in New York for a 2-day working visit of the U.S., during which he is scheduled to chair a United Nations Security Council UNSC high-level open debate on diversity, state building and peace. According to Kenya's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Martin Kimani, Kenya's overriding agenda at the UN Security Council is to offer ideas and solutions to global peace and security in areas such as the Horn of Africa and the troubled Sahel region. Alongside his engagement at the UNSC, the head of state is scheduled to hold bilateral talks with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and witness the signing of a trade agreement between Kenya's private sector and a consortium of American companies during his 2-day visit. In the meeting with Guterres, the president and the UN boss are expected to discuss several subjects of mutual interest to Kenya and the UN, among them the global response to COVID-19.
It's a pleasure to welcome His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta to New York City. On Monday, the 11th of October, President Kenyatta will have a one-on-one meeting with the United Nations Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres. That is certain to be a meeting that will touch on the pressing challenges in peace and security being experienced globally, how the global community is responding to COVID-19, and Kenya's proposals on a better way forward for the global community. The President will also engage the Security Council by chairing a high-level open debate on diversity, state building, and the search for peace. This will be a historic event where the President gets to lead a conversation that is sorely needed in today's world. And that is a conversation on how to build cohesion, inclusivity into the way states operate so as to maintain peace.
Residents of Otamba in Nyaribari Chache, Kisii County, have lauded businessman James Kenani for enhancing tooth care efforts through free dental camp at a time Kenyans are grappling with harsh economic times. According to Kenani, the cost of dental care and treatment in Kisii County is unbearable. The free medical camp has revealed dental ailments that are attributable to poor oral hygiene.
Here, most of the problems is oral hygiene. And that is why they get more problems. Usually we do get dental caries, periodontitis and gingivitis. So periodontitis and gingivitis is very high compared to dental caries because their hygiene is still low.
There was this need that I saw in the community that the cost of getting dental services is prohibitive. And particularly this time when our economy is performing poorly. I take it that around here in Kisii, it costs 1,000 shillings to remove a decayed tooth. If you want mouthwash and cleaning and scaling, that quickly rises to about 10,000. So we did discuss and negotiate that we offer a free medical dentistry function here, that service, and I'm pleased that there are huge numbers have actually turned out.
Na leo nimefurahia sana kwamba meno imekuwa ikinisumbua kwa muda mrefu, na leo hii Mheshimiwa James Kenani ametuletea madaktari kutoka Asumbi Kristamarian. Sasa tumefurahi, tumepewa madawa, wala ambao hatukutolewa meno tumepewa tarehe ya kwenda kutolewa na pia tumeridhika.
Nasema asante sana kwa Mheshimiwa, anatufanyia kazi nzuri. Anatutumia madaktari wanatotoa meno, tunasema asante.
Nilikuwa nimesumbuliwa na meno. Leo hii Kenani amekuja hapo Tamba, watu wamejaa, wametolewa meno. Tumefurahi sana sababu meno hii inatusumbua sana na imepanda bei sana, sababu ukienda kutolewa ni shilingi 1,000 na zaidi. Lakini leo tumefurahi, tumetolewa hiyo meno.
Lack of financial training and empowerment among the youth is one of the reasons for radicalization and misuse of youth by politicians, something that leads to unemployment, drug abuse, and depression. This is according to Taita Finance CCM Andrew Kubo. Speaking during an empowerment program for the youth in the county, Kubo said the county is still facing numerous challenges, even as most youths now engage in the border sector.
Lazima sisi tuanze kujifikiria sisi, na lazima tuone vile sisi tunajisaidia kwanza kabla tuanze kusikiza viongozi. Sawa sawa. Umesikia kuna mambo ya license na nimeuliza sawa, kama county government tumejitolea na tutawashika mkono na mtapata hizi leseni. Lakini as long as hauko financially empowered, wao watawatumia vile wanataka. Keyword watawatumia, because hivyo ndio inafanyika. Tuambiane ukweli, si ndio? Yeye anakutumia kutimiza malengo yake. Lakini wewe malengo yako nani anakusaidia kutimiza?
So it's a good initiative, it's free. Hakuna shilingi yenye unatoa, ni government imekuletea. Unajua imekuletea kazi mpaka kwa mdomo. Kwa pua yako hivi unaambiwa chukua. So tumekuwa na shida ya Taita Taveta with very low numbers. Hii jaba hii inatuumiza. Mtu ako radhi ya kule lakini hawataki kufanya ajira. So tuna numbers kidogo sana na tunataka kupandisha na vijana wenzangu wa Taita Taveta to benefit. Hii ni grant yenye tumepewa bure. Tuchukue na mikono yote miwili.
Vijana tuna changamoto nyingi sana. Na tukitembea kwenye vikundi ama mikutano ya vijana, tunaangalia kuwawezesha vijana, to empower the youth, ya? Lakini huwa inakuwa ngumu sana. Manake nikiitisha sahi Mkanyika niitie kikundi cha kina mama, hiyo ni rahisi sana. Lakini niitie kikundi cha vijana huwa ni ngumu sana. Na huwa vijana hawajui ni nini huwa wanataka kimaisha. Unawauliza mnataka niwafanyie nini? Hawana jibu. Lakini uuliza mama hapa hivi, unataka nikufanyie nini? Atakwambia ya kwanza tunaomba utufanyie ABCD. Ya pili, unaona, tujaribu kupanua mawazo yetu. Na pia ni vibaya sana kwa sababu nyinyi huwa hamwendi kwa public participation. Hasa wakati wa budget. Tunashindwa kuweka miradi yenu ile ambayo miradi nyinyi mnataka kwenye budget yetu.
Right, Newswatch takes another short break. Business and sports news is coming up next.
na Optiven.
Dad! Gari mpya!
Umetoa wapi gari mpya?
Optiven wametusort.
Optiven?
Nunua any of our value-added properties ama redeem installment ya property yako. Kwa kila malipo ya 10,000 unapata 1 entry point kwenye draw ya furahia na Optiven promotion. Airtime kushindaniwa kila siku, holiday kila wiki, shinda ploti na gari kila mwezi na grand prize ya Mercedes-Benz C180. Ni rahisi, buy ama redeem na ushinde na furahia na Optiven.
Our Christian life is not just about God always stepping in when you are in trouble. But sometimes you need to go through the valley of the shadow of death, and God will say, angels, stand away. He must go through that. She must go through that. Because out of this would come something greater and more beautiful.
Let's continue with business news. Sabrina Chepkemoi and Marietta Halima of St. Thomas Girls Secondary School in Kilifi County have been crowned Young Scientists of the Year for the best innovation at the 2021 Young Scientists Kenya National Science and Technology Exhibition. Their innovation, Rapid Covix Breathalyzer Testing Kit, seeks to help developing countries contain the spread of infectious viral diseases such as Ebola and COVID-19. The duo developed a locally assembled testing kit that can provide real-time results when testing for infectious diseases. In addition to winning 50,000 shillings each, both Chepkemoi and Halima will receive a full scholarship at Strathmore University.
This is our former Rapid Covix breathalyzer, which here is the breathalyzer whereby we had a fluorescent microscope. They were separated, whereby we had where the fluorescent microscope was the one which was used to detect the virus first, and then the breath condensate will be brought here to the breathalyzer to be analyzed. But now we have done more modification whereby we have a smaller, less bulky Rapid Covix breathalyzer.
The Rapid Covix breathalyzer is a medical kit that we have designed and built through partnership with Cambridge Kilifi. The gas sensing technology uses electrochemical sensor that detects ammonia and nitrogen oxide gas that may be exhaled in an infected person or patient.
Not to forget, our Rapid Covix breathalyzer contains an MQ gas sensor that detects gases and processes it as it is produced. We get the indication as a sound which is produced by which comes through the buzzer that is hooked to the Arduino microcontroller. We also have an ESP camera module, which the camera module is used to, like for the last project, our former fluorescent microscope, we actually used a phone, but for now we won't be using a phone anymore because we already have a fixed camera inside, whereby it will be recording the events in the Covix breathalyzer. The information will be relayed in the smartphone wirelessly.
The conservation of elephants in Kenya has received a major boost after the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife announced that it had mobilized 16.5 million shillings towards this initiative against the target of 100 million within the financial year 2021-2022. This announcement was made during the inaugural Magical Kenya Tembo Naming Festival held at the Amboseli National Park, Kajiado County, over the weekend. During the event, corporates and individuals were allowed to adopt and name select elephants after donating funds towards the initiative, which is aimed at boosting conservation efforts of the endangered species.
And we shall name our first elephant Tusker after our biggest brand that turns 100 years in 2022.
Makofi tena. The second?
The journey doesn't end today. It's only just started. Because this is an event that will happen every year. And even after we finish today's event, we will still continue engaging you, the sponsors, so that we can get more of you to be able to help us look after these beautiful animals.
Leo tuko kwenye sherehe hii ya kuwapa ndovu majina kwenye mbuga ya Amboseli, na tumeanza mara yetu ya kwanza. Tunataka huu mradi uendelee kila mwaka, na pia tunatafuta mbinu ya kuweza kukusanya pesa ya kuhifadhi hawa ndovu. Leo tumeanzisha mradi huu, matarajio yetu ni milioni moja ya dola au milioni moja ama milioni 100 za Kenya, na pia hivi leo tumekusanya takriban milioni 20, na kila mmoja anayetoa $500,000 ama $5,000 anaweza kutia jina la ndovu huyo, na tunampa taarifa kamili ya huyo ndovu, lini amezaliwa, anaitwa nani hapo awali, yuko wapi, na tunampa picha za hizo ndovu. Kwa hivyo ni njia ya kuhamasisha watu kwa vipi kuhifadhi ndovu, lakini pia kusaidia kwa hawa ndovu waweze kuhifadhika afadhali.
All right, let's go back to our earlier conversation that we had begun here tonight on Newswatch on the IEBC, and just talking about the election numbers and what is happening in the country. And we're talking about the IEBC. We saw today they released some data on the ongoing voter registration. And I want to bring in our guest, who is Abel Oyeyo, a political analyst. And my first question to you, Mr. Abel, was about the IEBC saying that it's not satisfied with the outcomes of the voter registration, the ongoing voter registration. And we've seen that only 200,000 people have come out to register, and they're saying that the numbers are low. What do you think is the problem? And do you think that Kenyans are deliberately refusing to register as voters?
Thank you so much. 3 things. Point number 1.
Yeah.
I don't think Kenyans have a problem with registering as voters. They've actually been waiting for this moment so that they can go ahead and participate in the 2022 general election.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of activity we've had since the previous election, the 2017 election, has made it, hot. So Kenyans are looking to the next general election with a lot of anxiety, with a lot of expectations. And I think the ones who do not have voters' cards, they're very much willing to add and do that. The IBC, number 2, we have to look at the manner in which IBC prepared for the exercise. There was no sufficient sensitization of people that from the 4th of October all the way to the 2nd of November, we're going to begin this exercise of registering new voters. So that is why the number of Kenyans still turning out is a bit low. The third point I want to make is the nature of Kenyans. Kenyans, by their very nature, are late comers. So the exercise is going to go on for a month, 30 days, starting the 4th of October all the way to the 2nd of November. So you can expect to see an influx, a very high number of Kenyans rushing to centers where the exercise is going on so as to get registered. So I don't want us to give a verdict of low numbers of Kenyans registering as voters at such an early stage. Yeah, that is what I can say as far as that is concerned.
Do you think the whole issue of voter registration is being politicized now that IEBC says one of the reasons for low registration is lack of national identity cards, having in mind that there was also a national rollout of the Huduma number?
Now, the issue of voter registration has always been politicized, and depending on the side the government is leaning towards, they can always suppress what we call the taking of identity cards, so that a perceived strong candidate who they don't want to ascend to power can have a small number of people registering as voters, so that, you know, on election day, obviously a very small number of people will be able to go out and cast votes. So in this particular case, there have been rumors of people from perceived strongholds of the deputy president not being given ID cards quickly. But you know, that might not even work. If that is, you know, a move that is meant to weaken the deputy president, we have another issue they will have to deal with, which is voter turnout. You can register a lot of voters in places where you want someone to become, you know, a president or a governor or something. But then again, on election day, the guys who will have gotten voters' cards will not show up and vote. Historically, Rift Valley and Mount Kenya always top the list when it comes to voter turnout. So trying to suppress the taking of IDs is not enough. But then again, that is unjustified. It shouldn't happen. When it comes to people taking ID cards, they should be given without any kind of discrimination, because you can decide to condemn people from a particular region, wholesome, only for you to realize that you're actually suppressing your own support. Because if I come from, for example, Rift Valley, it's very possible that I'm a supporter of Raila Odinga. So if you decide to condemn all the people from Rift Valley, you'll have locked me out as a voter of the former prime minister. So I don't want us to have a case whereby the government deliberately discriminates against Kenyans, okay, by excluding them from the taking up of IDs. So if it's happening, it should stop. People should be registered as voters indiscriminately, because everybody's a Kenyan at the end of the day.
Okay, now how do we stop or tackle the issue of voter apathy? Because actually, why would Kenyans be less interested in an election or in voting? Is it that people's vote have failed to count in elections owing to the issues that we've faced in the past, where electoral leaders rallied Kenyans against electoral bodies, calling for things like restructuring or replacement of some, for example, IBC officers? Is it a question of the credibility of the electoral body?
Voter apathy can be dealt with in a couple of ways. I don't want to go ahead and support the idea that voting does not matter. Voting counts. Votes count. And of course, we've had cases, we've had issues whereby, you know, we question the manner in which the votes are counted, and sometimes we even question the outcome. But voting counts. Votes count. So I don't want Kenyans to actually pull back thinking the votes don't matter. They do matter. If it's an MCA, you go cast your vote and it will make a difference. So what IBC needs to do, because we still have a window through which things can be done differently and be turned around. IBC needs a budget that can be used to sensitize Kenyans as to the significance of registering as voters. Number two, politicians need to be patriotic. They need to sensitize their voters or their supporters that they need to go and register as voters. Because at the end of the day, the only way as a politician you can be able to get elected is by getting as many of your supporters as possible, taking up IDs, voters' cards. So politicians need to stop, they need to take a break and mobilize their perceived or, you know, actual supporters to go and register as what? As voters. So we need to actually have like 2 weeks or 3 weeks of serious mobilization of Kenyans to register as voters. And then again, IBC needs to always have a message. They need to always remind Kenyans that voting has some kind of significance. Kenyans will always have doubts. It's not just in Kenya where we doubt the manner in which the electoral process is handled. Even in the United States, we have people who complain, but voting does count. So IBC needs to come out with a strong message that is targeted, especially at young voters, because they're the ones who actually don't turn out to register as voters, to mobilize them, to show them a reason to want vote. Kenyans are suffering, and they know the position of the economy rises and falls with leadership. So with some kind of prodding, a little bit of mobilization, people will register as voters. So there's no reason to give up hope. It can be turned around. And I think towards the end of the period of 30 days, we're going to see, you know, a rush. Kenyans will be rushing to register as voters.
Okay. Talking about the elections and people rushing, I want to bring in the question of the law. And under the Elections Act, and the Election Campaign Financing Act, we've seen aspirants don't get to decide probably when to start their campaigns. The campaign period is defined to be, I think, 60 days to the ballot. Are those who have shared campaign posters and probably hosted campaign rallies candidates for disqualification already?
I didn't get the question clearly. Could you kindly repeat?
Talking about the Elections Act, and probably aspirants don't get to decide when to begin their campaigns, and the campaign period has been defined to be 60 days on the ballot. Now the question is, are those who have already shared the campaign posters and probably hosted rallies candidates for disqualification? Are they against the law in terms of early campaigns?
No, that's not against the law, and they're not going to be disqualified. There's a window of leniency. There's an element of leniency in all this. And it's very hard to draw a clear line between mobilizing voters or supporters for a particular reason and campaigning. And if, for example, you decide to punish all these guys because, the top candidates who expect to produce a president or maybe some governors or stuff like that are engaged in all these activities. If it's the former Prime Minister, he has campaigned, he has gone to Mount Kenya, he has met people in his stronghold or backyard of Kisumu. If it's the Deputy President, he has gone to Rift Valley and held numerous rallies. All these guys have done this. And IBC has not been strong in making it clear that sharing posters or any kind of campaign paraphernalia is illegal. So I don't think it's possible to disqualify them. What they can do at this moment is to remind them of the electoral law, that you need to stop campaigning before the allowed period of 60 days to the ballot. But then again, like I said, some of these meetings and rallies and, can be given a different definition. These guys take advantage of that kind of wide definition of these meetings to engage in campaigns. Mm-hmm. So IBC can rescue itself. It can, clean up its name by sending a clear message to all politicians to stop producing and spreading or sharing campaign material, and, to always come clean when they have meetings. You can go to Mount Kenya to have a meeting with elders to even pretend to consult whether you should be a candidate, which of course will come out as a campaign event. So IBC is the one to crack the whip and call these guys to order.
Let's now get deeper into some politics. We're continuing to see, of course, a lot of backlashes and fights over, of course, political turfs, and the famous one being the Mount Kenya region, or the mountain as commonly referred to. And over the weekend, ODM leader Raila Odinga engaged in a charm offensive, of course, with Deputy President Ruto over the same. Can we really, at this point, tell who's the top influencer of the mountain between the Deputy President, William Ruto, and Raila Odinga?
Yes, it is very clear. I work for a research firm called the Center for African Progress, and we believe in what we call tangible evidence when it comes to, pointing out of a winner. Now, when you look at the former Prime Minister, it's not the first time he has gotten huge crowds in Mount Kenya. In fact, in 2017 and 2013, he attracted larger crowds than Uhuru himself in places like Meru. Now, when you look at the Deputy President, there are a couple of things you look at for you to be able to decide that he has gotten the heart of the mountain. Number one, you look at BBI. He was against BBI, and the mountain listened to him and actually sided with him. That is number one. Number two, you look at by-elections. By-elections have been held in so many places in the mountain. There was Juja, there was Kiambaa, there was Ruri Ward, there was Gatiru Ward. All those by-elections were influenced successfully by the hustler. So if you want to determine or distinguish between the two and tell us, tell Kenyans who has the ear of the mountain, obviously it's the Deputy President. In fact, my prediction is if the election is held today, the Deputy President will get up to around 85% of the Mount Kenya votes. And I listened to SK Macharia when they hosted Raila in Murang'a. He made it very clear. If the election is held today, the hustlers will carry the day. They'll take the votes. So if Raila wanted to test his strength in the mountain, you could have tried to field a candidate in one of the by-elections, and then you could have seen. So the deputy president, for some reason, because he has been there for a very long time, has convinced these guys. And that is why the likes of Governor Waiguru have decided to actually go back to UDA. In about a month or two, guys, most of these elected leaders from Mount Kenya will be fighting to get space within UDA, because if you're not with the deputy president, that is a ticket home. So that is, give it about 2-3 months. It's going to get very hot.
Okay, as you talk about that and telling us about the kingpin there, of course, the battle for this central vote continues. We've seen local leaders divided over who to follow, local leaders, with some leaning towards Odinga, others DP Ruto. So my question is, just the way you've answered, should we say that the current political picture we're seeing is what we will see in 2022? Are these numbers real numbers? Or like people would say, for ground, things are different? For example, is the support Raila Odinga probably receiving from Central now likely to reflect at the ballot in 2022? Or things may change at the last minute, because we've also seen local leaders from Mount Kenya backing him?
That's okay. Here is your answer. The number of guys who have, the former prime minister has not gotten the real movers and shakers of the mountain. The president is indifferent. He has never taken the former prime minister to Mount Kenya to introduce him to the people. The president did not bother to actually make sure he wins by elections in his own backyard. He does not pay much attention, because all he cares about, and rightfully so, is his legacy. The former prime minister is being taken around Mount Kenya by people who do not command a following. If you look at, for example, Peter Kenneth, that is someone who got 40,000 votes when he contested for the governorship of Nairobi County. He does not command any following. If you look at Dennis Waweru, that is someone who was beaten by a comedian in the Great South. That is a Nairobi politician who does not command any following. If you look at Maina Kamanda, he was beaten by another comical musician called Jawa. These guys don't have clout. And I don't want to sugarcoat anything, because it's what it is. Raila has not been taken to Mount Kenya by people who command a following, people who talk to the people and they listen. The businessmen can bring in the money. They've always brought the money. SK Macharia has been with Raila for as long as I can remember. That kind of support does not mean anything. Money nowadays in Kenyan politics does not mean much. The money must be accompanied by goodwill from people who are listened to by the voters. So at the moment, and we're just 2 months away from 2022. The election is very close. It's less than a year. Yeah. So the time that is remaining is very limited. The Mount Kenya vote is gone. That is with the deputy president. Now the focus for the former prime minister has to be raising his numbers from 7% in 2017 to around maybe 20% in 2022, so that he can have a fighting chance. Actually, another mistake is going to be made to make as a politician, which I don't think will do, is to pick a Mount Kenya running mate. A Mount Kenya running mate for the former prime minister does not bring more than 30% of the Mount Kenya vote. And in the process, he loses around 1.9 million votes from Mukambani, which means his vote count goes down completely, and this election will be finished in the first round. Ruto can get up to 60% if Raila gets a Mount Kenya running mate, because he'll be abandoned by the lower eastern votes, the voters, the Ukambani guys. That is what it is.
Okay.
On the other hand, if Ruto gets a Mount Kenya running mate and Raila gets a Mount Kenya running mate as well, Ruto will still get around 60 to 70% of that vote. And he'll have a fighting chance in lower eastern. And out of the 2017 1.5 million registered voters in Ukambani, Ruto will have a chance of getting even 50%. Again, that is very, very detrimental to the political fortunes of the former prime minister. Okay. These are numbers they need to get to understand, and they need to face reality. It's a tough election.
Okay. As we went down the interview, let's briefly talk about political promises and election manifestos. We've seen presidential aspirants are so obsessed by the youth vote. This, I understand, is mainly because the youth make up a larger part of our population. But still, the youth are the most people who remain unemployed. And we saw, of course, over the weekend, listening to what former Prime Minister Raila Odinga said. He made a statement that did not go well with his political opponents. He said, if elected president, every unemployed youth will be paid a monthly stipend of 6,000 shillings a month. How practical do you think this is? Is this a pipe dream or what?
Now, when you look at the amount of money that is stolen through corruption in Kenya, it's a lot. A third of the Kenyan budget is stolen. It's lost through corruption. The Kenyan budget, as we speak now, is around 3.3 trillion. So a third is around 1.1 trillion. It's lost through corruption. It's very possible to give Kenyan youth who are unemployed 6,000 shillings per month. It happens in South Africa, by the way. Okay. But that is not something the former prime minister should be promising young people. What he needs to talk about, number one, is to deal with corruption. Number two, make sure the economy is supported in a way that it grows to a point where it provides jobs for this unemployed youth. Kenyans are not lazy people who want handouts from the government. Kenyans are hardworking people who want opportunities. That is it. So when you want to promise people free money, that is, encouraging laziness, in the country, and it's not a good statement that he made. Earlier on, you talked about the excitement or the focus most of these politicians have towards young people. Now, the Kenyan population is very young, it's very youthful. Most of our people are between 21, actually 19 up to around 40 years. It's a relatively youthful population. So if you want to win an election, that is the demographic you need to capture. And the deputy president's campaign structured its message very early and it tilted it towards that kind of demographic. Now, the former prime minister, of course, has gotten to realize that he had forgotten that population or demographic, and he has begun talking to them, which is very good. So he has to do something else. Most of these guys were born between 1996, 97, up to around 2000. And they don't know much about the contributions the former prime minister made towards the whole process of democratization of this country. Mm-hmm. So telling them such stories might not excite them much. They want to hear stories of how jobs will be created, how this country can be made better. The former prime minister has been in government for 4 years. The president told us DACOM now is in government. Okay? Mm-hmm. So it's the same government from 2017 to now that has borrowed so much money, and this man has been lost. We expected Raila, the Raila we've known, to protest and even quit. He could have demanded that the man that was lost through KEMSA be brought back to government. It never happened. He mobilized his members of parliament to support the hiking of fuel prices. So when he comes and tells us it's going to go down, what did he think when he was telling his MPs to go and support that kind of bill? So you cannot inflict suffering on Kenyans and then come back and try to get it down. On the other hand, the deputy president was part of government substantively from 2013 to 2017. I don't want to blame him from 2018 to now. 2018 to 2021, he was pushed out, his duties were given to Matiang'i and stuff like that. So he also has some kind of blame to shoulder when you look at what happened between 2013 and 2017 when he was actively involved in the running of the affairs of the country. So the youth have to be very, very vigilant. They should not be, hoodwinked using gimmicks and false promises. They have to question all these politicians. They have to look at all these manifestos and see real plans to solve their problems.
Okay. Thank you so much. That is Abel Oyeyo, who is a political analyst, joining us live in the studio, just demystifying some of the issues that are happening in the political arena. Thank you so much, Abel, for joining us tonight, and thank you for your time. All right, on that note, we want to take a very quick break here on Newswatch, and then we'll be back with sports news. Do stay with us.
Whether you are fat or thin, and for me, I don't consider myself fat. I consider myself good for my purpose, to hug women. When they come crying, and they come and hug me, they just come and I hug them and they cry and cry and cry until they are comfortable.
We praise together, we praise. praise him.
And now to some sports news. Kenya's Diana Kipchoge has won the Boston Marathon on Monday in her major marathon debut. At just 27, her previous biggest victory was the Istanbul Marathon. The race began in a typical pattern with a large lead group forming and runners gradually dropping away. The pack was still 20 strong by the halfway mark. The race didn't really begin until 18 miles in when Kipchoge surged ahead. And Natsanet Gedeta of Ethiopia, a former world cross-country champion, went after her and caught her within a few miles. But at 24 miles after the two had run side by side, it was Kipchoge who again took the lead. At the same time, Kenya's Benson Kipruto has won the 125th Boston Marathon in the race's return from a 30-month hiatus because of the pandemic, while congratulating the two Kenyan icons who lauded the athletes for making Kenya shine in the world and for inspiring the youths. Harambee Stars coach Engineer Firat is ready to extend his current contract with the national soccer team, but only if Football Kenya Federation FKF presents to him an elaborate plan of how they intend to build a formidable team for the future. The Turkish tactician made the statements moments after Mali ended Stars' hopes of clinching a ticket to the 2022 World Cup by winning the return leg by a solitary goal at Nyayo National Stadium in Nairobi.
If African teams qualify to World Cup, what happens? They go directly out. Yes or not? In the last tournaments. So, if you have this kind of referees, then you go easy to World Cup. But in World Cup, you don't have these referees. This is something about African football. But to come to this point here, why I should blame anyone? The boys did everything what they want. We played good football. We had so many goal chances. It's unbelievable. For me, it's unbelievable how we cannot score. This is the problem. And there we come to a base. You live in Kenya always the day. You never live for success, the long-term projects. But you have to ask one question, for example. We have 8, 9 very clear goal positions. They have one in score, Ibrahim Akondi. You have to ask yourself why he has the quality and we don't have this quality. Understand? So, and if you ask this question, you will come to the point, what is going wrong? All the last generations. And this is what I call as a president. We need to make a project. Even if I'm not here, I will prepare a project where you can solve problems. And if I say this, then all media is included in this.
Right, that's where we end our broadcast tonight on Newswatch. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time. My name is Tony Omondi and our sign language interpreter has been Boniface Murithi. Have a good night and God bless.